Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL on a daily basis. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers. Just wrapping up day 2 of training camp, I got a chance to catch up with Deuce McAllister, so I'm going to break down some of the news of the day and then get to that interview with Deuce shortly. He gave some great breakdowns on each position group and what needs to be worked on. Let's do a quick roll call first. We did not see running back Kendre Miller or offensive tackle Justin Herron, who both left practice early yesterday. Linebacker Nephi Sewell was working off to the side, which is a good sign since he had that ACL injury late last season. Defensive end Trajan Jeffcoat left practice on a cart with a right elbow injury during team drills, and guard Shane Lemieux left early with a left ankle injury. With Miller out of the running back rotation, Jordan Mims moved up behind Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. Here's Dennis Allen on Mims.
I think he's made some good runs. He's made some runs that have stood out. I think he's done a good job in protection. He's done a good job with his routes. And you see him running the right tracks and making the right cuts and making the right reads. And so when you do things like that, it's like we were talking about earlier. When you do something, it catches my eye, and then all of a sudden you get another rep, and then you do something else that catches my eye, you start getting more and more reps. So yeah, I would say he's done some things to catch my attention.
We'll continue to follow along with those players, give you any injury updates as we can right here on the podcast. Now for what went down in practice. There were 2 interceptions in team drills today. Cornerback Paulson Adebo grabbed a tip pass from quarterback Derek Carr that was just out of reach, like a little bit too high over Cedric Wilson's head. Deuce and I will circle back to that in our conversation. Don't worry. The second interception was a bad decision by quarterback Jake Haener that Roderick Teamer jumped all over. And Teamer might be a name that you recognize. He played cornerback at Tulane. He is now safety in the NFL. DA said Teamer's definitely stood out.
Yeah, he's a veteran player. He's kind of, somewhat established himself as being a pretty decent special teams player. But I've seen a guy that's come in, picked up the defense pretty well, understands what to do. He's been a pro. He's come in, been quiet, gone to work, done everything we've asked him to do. And that's what happens. Like you just watch day in and day out, and the guys that make plays, they catch your eye, and then all of a sudden they make another play, and they catch your eye a little bit more, and they make another play, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, that's one of the guys that you're putting in there thinking that maybe this is a guy we can count on. I don't think we're at that point in 2 days into training camp, but that's a nice start.
Well, rotating.
It was a hell of a play today, by the way. That was a hell of a play.
After practice, linebacker Demario Davis spoke with the media. Davis grabbed the sole pick in yesterday's practice, and at 35, he does not seem to be slowing down one bit. Here's his message to the fans post-practice.
We have underperformed. It's like, I think that the message I would give to our fan base is we know we haven't been good enough. We haven't put something on the field that the city should be proud of. And that's why we're here locked in and we're working. And so the mindset is we got all the right pieces and it's on us to go and execute. I think we're going to put a team on the field that the city is going to be proud of. What I need the city to understand is we got the right coaches. We got the right pieces. We got the right offense. We got the right quarterback. We got the right defense. And it's on us to go out and execute. And so we take that on us. We have underperformed, all of us, the entire organization. We haven't done what we're supposed to do. But that's why we locked in and we putting the work in so that the results can show. And the only way we're going to get there is if we put the work in and continue to stack the bricks. But I think we got a process that the city would be proud of. And I believe that process is going to give us the result.
Davis also spoke emphatically about his feelings regarding head coach Dennis Allen and quarterback Derek Carr. His entire interview was a great listen. It usually is with him, but this definitely stood out.
I've been in the trenches with both of these guys. And when I tell you Derek is the right quarterback, he's the right quarterback. When I tell you DA is the right head coach, he's the right head coach. And I've been here to see the good times and the bad times. So I know, but they're the right men for the job. And that's what my belief is. Our mentality is the Super Bowl is coming to New Orleans. That's our mindset. And when I'm telling you that these are the right men for the job, it's the right men for the job. And I don't know. I think there may be a series of doubt around them. Well, I don't think there's a series of doubt around me. And if there ain't no series of doubt around me and I'm telling you they're the right people, you just got to believe that. And we got to roll with that because as a city, we got to be united in trying to get where we're trying to go. We cannot be divided.
Yeah, it may be cooler out here in Cali, but things feel like they've been turned up a notch around the team. Todd and I mentioned it yesterday. Players are not satisfied with the way things have gone the past few seasons, and they are going to work to change that in every way that they possibly can. Now, let's bring in Duce McAllister, Saints Hall of Famer, and our radio analyst alongside Mike Haas for all of our Saints games. Duce, we just wrapped up day 2 of training camp. It's early, but what have you seen in the first 2 days and the way that the team's approaching things here in Irvine?
Well, it's really just a refresher from what you did over the summer. I mean, that's what your first 3 to 4 days will be as far as camp is concerned, and then you will start installing more stuff that, hey, let me see if they can handle this. Let me see if they can handle this. But the first couple of days of training camp is really just the reinstall of what you did over the summer. And so far, so good. You're disappointed that Trajan kind of got banged up a little bit there. It looks like he's going to be dealing with something with his right arm. You never want any player to kind of get hurt, and obviously you lost Kendre yesterday to a hamstring, so it hadn't started great from an injury standpoint, but from an execution standpoint, probably hot and cold.
You speak of the running backs. With Kendre Miller going out with injury, we didn't see him here today. It looked like Jordan Mims moved up in the depth chart. What have you liked about his abilities as a running back?
It's opportunity. I mean, and Jordan's been around for a while, and now he gets to showcase it with the new staff, and for him, it's an opportunity. And so, you felt really good with Alvin and Jamal, and with Kendre not being available, somebody else will get that shot. And so Jordan is going to be able to take it. He's a big guy. He can, obviously get downhill. And in this system, you'll run a little bit more one-cut stuff. So I'm interested to see how he can play in space and if he can be able to put his foot in the ground and be able to get north as a runner. I mean, but it's an opportunity, and that's all you can ask for.
We've seen a lot of use of motion. That's a big component of this West Coast offense from Clint Kubiak. And there was a play that stood out yesterday. It ended up being a screen pass to Alvin. But today, I think he cut back to the left twice. I mean, and everybody was like, wow, that looked different. What have you seen that has stood out?
Well, I mean, for a runner like Alvin, it will feature him particularly more so when you talk about zone scheme-wise. I mean, just because he is such a dynamic runner in space, and so this will allow him to have space. It's about being patient. It's about him having the ability to be able to use his eyes, and a lot of what he will do is now set up the second level because, hey, the flow and the design of this play may say go right, but I have the ability to be able to cut it back, particularly if I have the defensive end that's being a little greedy or the backside linebacker that's been a little greedy, and that's what you saw today with Alvin. He's able to be able to put his foot in the ground, and some guys it may take 2 to 3 steps to make that cut. With Alvin, he can make that cut in one step, and so that's what you'll have in this offense. And it's really the Saints have done it previously, but the focus and the emphasis really goes to zone scheme with this offense, and so you won't have as much drop back passing. You'll still have to do it, but it will really be zone scheme, and then you will get to the counters and power and boots off of those actions as well.
I know Alvin can obviously catch passes, but is that going to be a component that the other running backs have to do or are going to be utilized?
No, you have to do it. And I think, because what happens is it takes away from him if he's only coming in and he's the only back that's catching passes. And so whether it's Jamal, whether it's Taysom, you talk about even working some of the fullbacks as well as tight ends into the backfield. If they aren't catching footballs or, if they're not catching out of the backfield, then it's just going to take away his ability because now at linebacker, anytime Alvin leaks out or he's just trying to leak out, he's going to have 2 guys, and the defensive end is going to chip him, and now the linebacker is definitely going to clamp down on him. So those other guys have to be able to catch as well just to take some of the pressure and tendencies off of the offense.
We talked about some position battles or maybe some depth that we're trying to fill in, especially in the wide receiver room, the tight end room. Dylan Hulker, I mean, he is a big guy out there, and it looks like they're lining up the tight ends pretty often right there on the outside.
Yeah, they're going to flex out, and so they'll line up, they'll come in motion, and that's a part of the offense as well. A lot of it is giving the quarterback picture, and so when I motion you in or who goes out, if it's a safety, then you know it's probably, you know, it has a chance to be man-to-man. If it's a linebacker, for sure it's man-to-man, and, you know, once he goes in motion, who moves, who shifts, that's all for the quarterback as well as the skill guys to understand, hey, this is man, you know, this is zone, this is what you should do. You know, this is a look we may want to exploit later on, and that's why you'll flex a guy out like, you know, Taysom. And here's the other thing, you know, how are they treating Taysom as a football player? Are they playing him base defense? Are they playing him nickel? That all helps in how I call a game, and then some of the personnel I use as well.
Someone else that stood out to me as a receiver, obviously we're going to have Chris Olave as your one, Rashid Shaheed, but from there, it's kind of up in the air. But Equanimeous St. Brown, he looks huge out there.
Yeah, he's a big target. He's a big receiver, and so where you think that he could really shine for you is short yardage as far as third down, and then in the red zone they haven't gotten to those plays specific yet, but you figure that he will have a matchup, and I'm going to be honest, your number 3 and 4 receivers with some of the skill guys that you have, if they can just be a little consistent, they're going to have huge opportunities because, you know, most of the time they're going to have a nickel and not even a top nickel guy or a dime safety on you. And that should be, you know, those guys should be able to exploit those matchups.
We haven't talked about the quarterbacks, but Derek Carr's thrown interceptions in both days here so far. Other than that, everyone's looked pretty good in day 2, a lot cleaner, you know, a lot more completions. I don't think there's any drop passes in the first set of teams. He's coming in here talking about how much more comfortable he is this season, even though it is a new offensive scheme, just among the team. How big is that for him?
Well, one, it's the trust factor. And so you've got to earn trust. And so it's going out there and guys trusting that you're going to do, you know, what you're supposed to do as a leader. And so now he's done that. Now, even though new offense, a lot of it, like I said, verbiage changes, yes, but he's been in a system like this before. So he's comfortable with, you know, being able to call some of those plays. The interception, that's one where he and the receiver have to have a little time on task. I think it was Cedric. Ball was probably a little high. The reason it's high is because your Mike linebackers dropping in the middle of the field. And the other reason that you're going to be a little behind is because the front side safety is driving down on the play. So as a receiver, I know that I either have to come up with the ball or I can't tip it up. And that's kind of what happened. It got tipped up into the air, got both hands on it, but that's one where you want to catch it and I get down immediately. You can throw it low and away, but it's got to be perfect. And now the linebacker can get involved in that play. But if that's where the ball has to go. And that's where, you know, throw over the middle. I've got to trust that my receiver can go up and get it and get down, or I can't throw that throw. And so right now, take a chance, see if you can fit it in, and you've just got to continue to throw it, continue to trust it.
You mentioned the linebackers. Willie Gay Jr. has been put all over the field. You know, he's been up, he's been back. A lot of base defense, but how much do you think he's going to be utilized as a pass rusher?
Well, he'll be used. I mean, right now they haven't worked third down. We talked about that. And so he'll be a guy that can drop. He can play one of your defensive end spots, but also he allows you to be able to play a little 3-3, 3 linebackers on the field, 3 down linemen, you know, and you can also go, you know, even a 3-4 look. It depends on who you want to classify as a jack. Is that going to be Foskey? Is that going to be, you know, Chase Young? You know, and so they can get creative. You won't see some of that stuff until later on in camp, but I mean, you see the speed, and that's what you wanted to see. And the question will be, all right, Willie, how much can you handle? I mean, because we can move you all over the field and we can put you in, you know, 4 or 5 different spots, but you've got to be able to execute it as well.
You mentioned Foskey. He looks like he's more comfortable out here.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not guessing. He's not questioning himself. And now it's just about executing. And so, you know, he's going to have an opportunity because nothing is sold in behind Cam and Granderson. And just like we talked about Willie, they can have some package specifically for him, but it's going to be, can you go out there and make a play when they do put you in?
I know we talked a couple days ago about the safeties and who's going to play opposite of Tyrann Mathieu. Looks like Jonathan Abrams getting the nod there so far. Again, it's very early, but Abram and then Jordan Howden kind of coming in certain situations as well. Is that he has more experience thing, or we're going with that right now?
He's got more experience. He's been in the defense. He hadn't hurt himself as far as things that you're doing. And then you've got to remember also it's 4-3. So when they go nickel, when they go dime, you may see some movement in that safety position as far as who's back there. But right now in that base look, he's the guy that they've chosen to go with, because a lot of times that's normally run, and if it's not run, it's going to be some type of play action. And, he may be covering 10, 15, 20 yards as far as an area, or if they're man-to-man, it just depends. But right now, that's what they're doing from a base standpoint.
As far as the corners go, we saw a pick from Paulson Adebo today on that pass that was a little bit high, yeah. But it's going to be him and Marshawn Lattimore. I've noticed Alontae Taylor a lot kind of helping Kool-Aid McKinstry out on the field and where to go. How much does that speak to just his leadership and his ability that he may not be completely, comfortable in his role in his new position, but he's still here trying to help out the rookie?
Well, I think, even for Alontae, he's played outside before. I mean, he's played outside in the league, and so, for him to get on the field, the best way is obviously in the slot. And so when you can go and help, Kool-Aid, the rookie, he hadn't been out on the field. This is his first couple of days out on the field. And so just, we know that he's done it in college, but this game is so much faster, and there's so many more nuances to how I cover, what I'm expecting, what's the split of the receiver, there's motion, what's the call. All of it has to be done quickly. And so, if you hesitate, you're beat in this league. And so to be able to try to catch him up and get him up to speed, that's what he's trying to do.
All right, how much do you like being on this side of training camp and not on the field?
I don't miss being hot out there. I mean, now the cool weather you'll definitely take, but I don't miss being hot out there one bit.
They ran gassers at the end of practice, and this time they went all 100.
That's a strider. That's not even a gasser. I mean, they're not even counting. So it's easy stride. That's just stretching out a little bit. You can do that all day.
So you're all for pushing them a little bit here early.
That's not even pushing.
Thank you so much, Deuce.
You're welcome.
Appreciate Deuce's insight. He has been around the game just a little bit and breaks it down with the best of them. We're back at it tomorrow, 9 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Central. You can watch the live show on YourView at the start of practice, and then stay tuned throughout the day to NewOrleansSaints.com or Saints on X for all of the interviews, stories, and highlights tomorrow and all camp long.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.